Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Alright, so hopefully this isn't going to be too windy a video. I tried to connect a lavalier mic to my iPhone 7 and I don't know how to do it. I guess I could attach the earphones with the mic, but just a straight up lavalier mic with the kind of the special adapter to connect it. Anyway, it just didn't work. So just have to do it straight up like this today. All right, well, first off, wristwatch check. The Seiko speed timer. And I actually was out with my daughters today, and we got kind of caught in the rain. We had umbrellas, but it was really windy, and there were droplets all over this. Actually, it looked really cool. I wanted to take some footage of it, but I had a baby in one hand and an umbrella in the other, and coats because my daughters were hot, so I was carrying their coats, so I just couldn't do it. But hopefully it'll be all right. I think it will. I think it probably can handle light rain. But even if it doesn't, it's a couple $100 down the drain. If it was something like an old Rolex chronograph, boy, I probably would have stopped whatever I was doing and wrapped it in a plastic bag and put it in my pocket. But this, I think, will be fine, and if it's not, oh well. But yeah, so I guess if you have certain watches, you kind of have to take note of the weather. And yeah, I know if I had a really expensive, say, old Daytona or an old Patek or even a new Patek Calatrava, probably would check the weather on days that that I wanted to wear it. That's kind of the reason why that function and feature of waterproofness and metal bracelets are so important to me. You don't have to worry about it. And I feel like I don't really have to worry about it so much with this. Again, I wouldn't put it in water, but I think it can handle a few drops. I guess we'll see. All right, so I wanted to make a video, and this is sort of... this video was inspired by James K, and he commented on the video that I posted yesterday, and I'll put his comment in the description of this video so you can read it yourself. And if I remember correctly, he was basically talking about how G-Shocks are sort of the modern day tool watch, and that was a title that Rolex held for a long time. But I think you'd have to agree that they've had to relinquish it to something like a Casio G-Shock. It is the quintessential beater watch, the quintessential tool watch, and I totally agree with that. Back in the day when there were no Casios and Quartz wasn't a thing, a Rolex was about as tough as it got, and high impact and a lot of jerky movements and sudden movements. It just doesn't play well with a mechanical watch. No matter what kind of Paraflex system it has, it just doesn't. A watch like that is just not meant to be moved in that way, and that's why really Casio is just by far probably the best tool watch out there. Now, I'm going to go one further. I'm going to say something that you guys will probably be shocked at. I have to say that I think a modern day Casio is probably the best watch in the world. That's right, I said that. Now, let me just say that I like Rolexes for a lot of different reasons, and I like mechanical watches for a lot of different reasons, but back in decades ago, a mechanical watch was just what you had to do. You know, there were no quartz watches, and mechanical was just all watches were mechanical, and things have changed, and many could say that things have progressed and made automatic watches, mechanical watches, obsolete, and they still have a function and they still have a use, and there's still plenty of people, myself included, that appreciate them. And I think they'll always have a place in the world. But they're difficult to take care of. They're difficult to service. You need to hire somebody to do that. And they're a little bit finicky. And so, for that reason, a quartz watch, when I say best, I mean it's sort of a no hassle, functional, accurate, and inexpensive. And in that sense, it really is better and more practical. It's not as artistic. I agree with that statement. It's not as artistic. It's not as classy. And again, when I'm saying better, I mean that's a really broad term. And what did I say? I said Casio are probably the best watches out there. And let's just kind of break that down. What do I mean by that? Well, they're tough. They're inexpensive. Now, a lot of people would say that's a negative, but it's amazing what you can get for the price. Rolex can't or won't do that, and so if you look at it in terms of what a person can get for their money, it's tough to get a better watch than, say, a Casio. And you know, when I say Casio, there are a lot of other brands I think that could fall under that umbrella. You know, digital watches full of functions. And let's talk about that, functions. I mean, when you go for a Rolex watch, you kind of have to choose your function. What do you want? Do you want a chronograph? Do you want a GMT hand? Do you want a do you want the rotating bezel and extreme water resistance for diving? You really have to choose, and you don't have to choose with a Casio because they do it all. They even the modest $10 Casios have a chronograph. It doesn't have another time zone, but you can for a little extra you can get a multi-time zone Casio. It's got the day. It's got the date. It's just got a whole bunch of features. And if you look at decades ago where we were horologically and where we are now, what you can do and what you can get and for what price, you gotta give a lot of credit to Casio for that. They're comfortable. They, you know, again, are they as good looking? I don't think so. And while you can get analog Casios with a quartz movement, they're certainly not as attractive as a mechanical watch. I much prefer a mechanical watch, but if you look at where we were 50 years ago and where we are now, and what you had to pay 50 years ago, and what you would get 50 years ago, and what you can pay now and get now, you know, a Casio G-Shock is an amazing watch, and let's say they cost $50. I mean, how many G-Shocks would it take to get just the most modest of Rolexes? Look, Rolexes, they're still functional, but in this day and time, you really are not that practical. They don't make a lot of sense. Again, they're reasonably robust. They're waterproof and they keep great time. But they're so expensive and they're not so accurate, and they need to be looked after and serviced. And you don't have to do that with a Casio. So it really does beg the question: why does somebody go the Rolex route? Why did I go the Rolex route? And there's so many different reasons, and you know, the social status could be one of them. The craftsmanship and sort of the idea of functional art is another. It could be looking at the legacy and the history and looking at what Rolex was 50 years ago and what it meant and all the firsts and all the innovations, and sort of wanting a piece of that history. I can understand that, and that's really what draws me to the brand. But if you look at the evolution of watches, the humble Casio is probably at the tippy top. The tippy top. I can't believe I just said that. Hanging out with my daughters too much. It's the top. It's the pinnacle. It's the climax of where we are. Extreme accuracy, loads of functions, and for that kind of price. So, what is the best watch in the world? I would have to say a Casio, a humble Casio. It's practical. It's functional. Is it ideal in every situation? No. I mean, I don't think a Casio looks good with a suit. See it all the time here. See it all the time, and you can get away with it. You can get away with a Casio anywhere with a suit now. A tuxedo, you put on your Casio and probably be okay. But it just doesn't look as good as a dress watch. It doesn't look as good as a Rolex. One other thing that sort of makes me lean towards Rolex, and believe me, I'm not. I'm on board with mechanical watches. I'm not gonna. That doesn't change. But I'm just trying to think very objectively about sort of where horology has come and what is the pinnacle, and it appears that it is these G-Shocks. But one thing that they do seem to lack is a permanence. And I don't know if that's because of the price. Well, of course that's partly because of the price, because you know, for $50, even if you could hire somebody to get in and change the resistors and the microchips and replace the screen and all that, it's going to cost way more than $50. You're just better off getting a new one. So they are disposable for all intents and purposes, and I don't think they're really meant to last for decades. And I don't think, even if you took care of it, like I mentioned, they dry out, the resin, plasticky strap cracks and breaks, and they're meant to be used and sort of disposed of, and that's a huge turnoff. And that is one huge reason why I think the idea of a mechanical watch is a beautiful one. The idea of it decades from now still functioning, and that's not going to be the case with many of these Casios. So it looks like evolution has brought us to an inexpensive, fully functional, multifunctional, tough watch that essentially is a throwaway watch. That right there makes it icky. Okay, that the fact that they are disposable, and again, it's partially because of the cost. Why would you have it worked on? And it's partially because I don't know if you really can work on them. They're really not meant to be worked on and replaced, and you're not meant to take it to a watchmaker and have parts ordered for it. And in that sense, it really is representative of our culture. Well, we're in the middle of a throwaway culture, and the watch that lasts for decades and decades is the anomaly. Something to think about. Much rather trade a little functionality and a little accuracy for something that lasts for ages. But in terms of the evolution of horology, yeah, there's something kind of amazing and worthy of credit in so far as what Casio has achieved. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.